These are the general instructions for searching library databases. In order to locate scholarly sources, you are going to limit your searches to full text, to either scholarly or peer-reviewed journal, and when you search, you can use the advanced search option. When you use the advanced search option, you will have several different rows into which you can put information to limit your search, and you can use some combination of the following: either the word literary criticism or literature criticism, the author's last name or the author's first and last name, the name of the text you are analyzing, keywords if you are focusing on some aspect of that particular work, symbolism, imagery, and subject terms if that is appropriate. So the general instruction is to limit your searches to full text, scholarly or peer-reviewed journals, to use an advanced search option, to begin with literary criticism or literature criticism, and then include information that will limit the search to your particular text. These are library databases by subject, and under the heading of literature, history, and art, there is this list. I have several in change to red type. The reason I have those highlighted is because those are the databases from which you are most likely to find literary criticism. Under the contemporary authors, the Twain Author Series, under those you're going to find primarily information about the author. That can be that single source that is not a literary criticism, but know that you need to go to one of these other sources to find literary criticism. We're going to look at what those searches look like. But first, I want you to see what you will find on those sources. Notice literature resources, you will find literature criticism. From Literature Resource Center, full text literary criticism. From the Dictionary of Literary Biography, critical essays on works. Contemporary literary criticism, again, critical essays. And on the Gale Virtual Reference Library, there is a database that sometimes will have critical essays or critical analysis or literary criticism that you can access. So these are the ones I'll direct your attention to first. If you want to go beyond that, you certainly may. From Calhoun's homepage, I can access the library either by clicking on the link here or going to Student Services and clicking on the link. When I do, it opens up the library page. From here, if I'm on campus, I can access library databases without doing anything else. However, if I'm off campus, there will be a sign-in page. Notice if you're unable to access the databases from off campus, you need to call the library. They will be able to help you work through that access issue. Now notice that they have top databases and they have databases by subject. When we click on databases by subject, we come to this page and you notice that this is the same list that I offered to you earlier for literature, history, and art. And I identified several of those as being the most productive for our purposes. Let's look at how we will search each of those to find the kind of information we need. First, if I search Academic Search Premier, this is what the screen looks like. If I go to Advanced Search, then I'm going to have more than one field, and I can tell it what I'm searching for in that particular field, but you do not have to identify that. That's why it says it's optional. We want to have full text, and we want to have scholarly or peer-reviewed journals. If we want to restrict it further, we can. However, that is the information at a minimum that you need to provide. You do not want an abstract. You do not want a book review. But if those were the things you wanted to limit it to, you could. We can, however, say that we want to limit it to literary criticism. And then when we enter our search terms, we'll find information that is limited to full text, scholarly journals, and that is limited to literary criticism. This is for Academic Search Premier. The second database we're going to look at is called, is Literature Resources from Gale. Again, I want to have an advanced search, and when I choose that option, the advanced search option, it allows me keyword, name of work, person that it's by or about, but you can change those to some other category. Next, we want to look at full text, peer-reviewed. We can choose all dates, or we can choose a particular date. We do not want biographies, multimedia, reviews. We do want literary criticism. And so that would be the limiters that we would include in Literature Resource Center by Gale. Next is Literature Resource Center. It is similar, but it offers you also an advanced search option. And the advanced search option looks very similar to literature resources. Again, we want to limit our search. And we can do it further here, a literary essay, before we search. Again, we want to limit our search to begin. Gale Literary Databases allows us to search all databases, contemporary authors, or the Dictionary of Literary Biography. If we search all literary databases, then it allows us to look at contemporary authors and the Dictionary of Literary Biography at the same time. We're not looking for biographies, but we can look at contemporary authors. Again, we can include the title of the work for what we want to be included in the text itself. If we click on Contemporary Literary Criticism, this is the screen that we find. We can do an author search, a subject search, a title search, or an advanced search. When we click on Advanced Search, we may choose again what we are searching for. We can say we want to search for and, or that we want to search for or one thing but not another. The same thing is true on the other limiters as well. And finally is the Gale Virtual Reference Library. We would want to look at literature. And when we click on literature, it shows us the series that we would be searching. The author series, Literary Critical Interpretation, Scribner's Writers Online, Essays on the Lives and Works, Contemporary Novelist, Contemporary Poets, Drama, Critical Overviews of Plays, and then finally Novels, which is critical overviews of novels. Now, an overview doesn't necessarily mean that it is an analysis, so make sure you look between those. Again, we have an advanced search option, and we can choose keyword, we can choose all years, we can select our subject area. We may want to look at multicultural studies as well. And then we may choose our audience. We are academic. And then we would search. We're going to go back through the databases and look at a search, and this time the search we're going to use, we're going to focus our search on Kate Chopin's Story of an Hour. We're going to go through the literature, history, and art databases that I recommended earlier. From Academic Search Premier, there is one article. It tells you that it is from an academic journal. You can access the article. It tells you the text that it came from and the other publication information. It tells us what it does, a literary criticism of the story. There are various ways in which emotions play a central role to the thematic development of the narrative. They analyze what happens to the character Mrs. Mallard, the victory of emotions over rational thought. If we go to literature resources from Gale, we find the same article, Emotions in the Story of an Hour, and we also find another article, Chopin's The Story of an Hour. Notice that we can access the full text or a PDF. That means we can access it just as an online version, or we can actually see a PDF version. Notice that this tab shows that it is literary criticism. Over here, there are several other links that we can go to, literary themes, literary characters, but again, we always want it to be literature criticism. When I search in the Literature Resource Center, I can find a copy of the text, but there are no literary criticisms of this story. If I search Gale Literary Databases, I find for Chopin's Story of an Hour, criticism. I find that there is one document, but notice it is a profile of the author's life and works. This would count as the one extra article. It is not a literary criticism. If I search the Contemporary Literary Criticism site, I also get no results. And the results is that there are no matching criteria. They suggest I check my spelling, but if those things are correct, then I know that there is not a source here. Finally, I searched the Gale Virtual Reference Library, and it showed me that there is information in a number of different text, critical essays that I can access. In this case, there are chapters in the text that reference this particular book. And that reference Kate Chopin's story. I can view it as a text or I can view it as a PDF. All of these references came from library databases. I looked at the ones that indicated that they did include literary criticism, but as you see, sometimes it is a little difficult to find source material that meets the criteria that we need for it to meet. So I want to introduce you to another source. Again, if you're having difficulty accessing library databases, notice that the Decatur campus is open until 8 o'clock Monday through Thursday, as is the Huntsville campus. You can call either one of those or email them for them to help you with access to library databases.